Hey everybody out there in rock and roll land, this is Joe Milliken, author of the Benjamin Orr biography, Let's Go, Benjamin Orr, The Cars. Let's go! And you're listening to Joe K on Play That Rock and Roll. Awesome podcast, check it out. Let's go!
But since you mentioned it, I want to pivot to Ben's solo album, 1986's The Lace. I was jamming to the single from that album, Stay the Night, last night. That is a great song. That, I think, stacks up better than a lot of Cars songs.
Stay the night, let it all love show. Stay the night, don't say you don't know.
But it doesn't seem to be one of those timeless hits that gets still played today, and I don't know if you can, speak to it a little bit, but what do you think of that record, and how come Ben didn't explore solo work a little more often?
I think one of the reasons why that he didn't go beyond The Lace with his solo career, he hadn't even planned on doing a solo album. Oh. There was a break in the band where they were taking some time off in between albums, and Elektra Records, the Cars label, actually approached him and said, do you want to do a solo album? And he wasn't even thinking about that. It wasn't even his idea. And but he said, well, I might as well take advantage of it. They want me to give it a shot, I will. And then he turned around and said, oh, I've got this solo deal. I've got to write songs now. So I mentioned Diane Page, who was they never got married, but they were together for about 8 years. That was one of his longest relationships with Diane. And she had a musical background. So she was a piano player and a good singer, and so she had a musical background. So they collaborated on his solo effort, and he was really proud of it. And I interviewed a couple of people who were involved in the production of that album, and a lot of the music you hear, like when Ben put that album together, he had like a little home studio in his house. And he put together a lot of demos and stuff, like actual finished songs. Of course, they needed to be worked on and brought to life more in a main studio, of course. But he wrote a lot of the songs were already written. And these demo songs that he brought into the studio for the producers, some of the music that ended up on the album were actually his demos that they didn't even mess with. They sort of, they added things to it, but they really liked the feel of his demo songs. And a lot of the music you hear on that album were the stuff that he actually had done in his house by himself. And they didn't really want to mess with the vibe too much.
That's like Austin's first album.
Exactly like that.
Very cool.
So he was really proud of that album. And I interviewed Diane Page for the book. She was super nice to me. And she told me a little story about how they were doing a little bit of a promotional. He didn't do any solo shows, but they did like a little promotional tour where they went to some cities and went to some radio stations and did some interviews and stuff. And she told me they were in the back seat of, can't remember if it was a car or a limo, but they were in the back seat. And like the first time they heard Stay the Night come on the radio, they were like yelling like they were 15-year-olds going, there's our song, there's our song. And Ben was already a huge rock star, right? So you think he'd be like used to it. But she said that they were so thrilled that their solo song was there on the radio. And a lot of people think that they could have built on that momentum and kept going. But shortly after that, Rick was ready, had some more songs ready, and they were ready to be the Cars again. And that's really what Ben wanted to do. Like I said, that solo thing, he was approached about it. So he said, okay, I'll do it, take advantage of it and see what happens. And it was a lot of fun for him. And he said he learned a lot from it. But when the Cars were ready to go again, the solo stuff kind of went by the boards and he didn't pursue that anymore. And they went back to doing the Cars. Yeah. You're right, though. I think it doesn't get as much recognition as it does deserve. There was another song on there, Too Hot to Stop, which actually the video got some play on MTV, and I think it might have hit the top 40.
You gotta open up your eyes. Some kind of hearing story. Cause you're part of the luck surprise. Well, too hot to stop.
But there were a couple of songs on that record that got some good radio play, so I thought it was a good effort. It really was.
For a debut solo album, I thought it was really good, and my only guess of why it doesn't stand the test of time a little better than I think it should is just because it came out in 1986, and the 80s had a glut of great music, so had really stiff competition. That's the only theory I can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you don't continue beyond it and try to build on it more, that probably lends to it sort of fading away a little bit because you didn't try to build upon it. I mean, maybe if he had done a second solo album with Diane, maybe they could have built on that some more and it would have made the Lace have a little bit more shelf life.
Just spinning me in circles, never get the fix I need. Down around in circles, told you it never me. Why?
Awesome podcast. Check it out.
All right, man, you made my day. Thank you so much for that.
You put me on the spot. I hope it came through okay.
You know